How's it going, everybody? This is Dave Meltzer. We're going to be here for the next 2 hours talking pro wrestling. We've got Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly with us, and our special guest today will be Donovan Morgan of All Pro Wrestling. So we'll be talking about the current wrestling scene, the latest news, and everything else. Brian, how are you today?
I'm doing good.
That's good. I guess we will start. Well, before we talk about SmackDown, we can mention that the May 9th debut of the new, quote, WCW promotion, which is the WWF, and television show on May the 12th have both been postponed. They are looking at sometime in June, probably early June. I'm guessing probably the 9th, June 9th. That's just a guess as far as the first date of the new company. Basically, here we are. What are we? We're about 5 weeks away. They have hired 24 wrestlers, which is not enough. No agents. It's basically, no writers, no whatever, no office staff, and it would have been a rush job, and that time slot, as we talked about before, it's very important to make a strong first impression in that time slot, as the XFL showed, and just to go on there and to rush to get a show on the air and kind of just throw a show out there to people in that time slot that isn't a good show will be a failure right away, and I think they recognize that, and
it's a good idea.
Yeah, it's a great idea. They're giving themselves an extra month to start. Actually, it looks like they're delaying 4 to 5 more weeks. So, so anyway, that's the situation as far as the first TV show. So the Trenton show's been canceled. The shows that were scheduled for all the Wednesdays in that month are canceled. None of them had actually been announced anyway, and going to start in June most likely. Again, everything's a work in progress. I guess we could talk about SmackDown.
I think if Nitro went off the air and the show wasn't starting up the next week, then it really doesn't matter at that point, how many weeks they wait to start it up. It's best to just get everything going, get some agents, get some wrestlers, figure out what they're going to do with the top guys, and then once everything's in place,
get some writers and write some long-term angles.
Yeah.
Get a plan.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
So let's go.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
I mean, it's like, there's not even writers to start writing a plan. So therefore, you go, you know what I mean? You got to go on there. You got to come up with, ideas where you want to go, how you want to get there. Certainly got to hire writers first. So
yeah,
they're not ready. And they're doing the right thing. SmackDown did a 4.3 rating and a 7 share, which is, I don't know. It's not a great rating for SmackDown by any means. There was pretty much, Survivor was out there, so that did a strong number. The NBC shows were in reruns, and they did actually pretty bad. NBC actually finished third. There was some baseball around the country, so that might have hurt a little bit. Last year, there was a big drop in the rating, which you could say is the first week of baseball, or you could say it's also the week after the unusually high number for the week before WrestleMania. Now this is back to 4.3 is what really the show's been pretty much in the ballpark of since February anyway. And maybe just last week was unusually high because it was the last show before Mania.
Yeah.
So, anyway, what are your thoughts on the show last night?
I actually thought SmackDown was a pretty damn good show last night.
Did you really? Because I didn't.
Really?
Go ahead. No.
Yeah, I thought I guess where can we start? I don't even have all the notes here. I thought that, the three-way with Regal, Angle, and Benoit, it was too short, but for 3 minutes I thought it was a pretty damn good 3 minutes. I thought Big Show and Jeff Hardy, as far as entertainment, I think it was the most entertaining Big Show match in a long time, but most of that was just the Hardys and the finish and everything. And, people cared about that, and I liked the Jim Ross-Steve Austin interview, and thought the main event was pretty good. Thought the pedigree finish was awesome, and got a title change and everything, so I liked it.
I thought the Jim Ross Steve Austin thing was tremendous. I thought Steve Austin was really great last night.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that the three-way was really good for a 3-minute match. As good as it's going to be in 3 minutes. They did a lot of really good spots and clever spots, and I thought Steve Regal was very funny when Angle wouldn't break the hold, and he's kind of giving him the look. And I thought, it was hilarious when Regal was talking to Angle about, my Regal stretch is a great submission, and Angle thought he was kidding.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, some of that stuff I liked. I was going to say, as far as the show Jeff Hardy match, I think that probably why I didn't like it as much as you is I know what the purpose was of it, and I think it didn't accomplish its purpose. In that, and I think you know what I mean by that. I mean, the designation of that was, this was supposed to be, where a star and a headliner puts over a mid-card guy to get the mid-card guy over into star territory. That was the designation of what this was about. And to me, it was just like one of those jobs that, like, you know, that they would do, like Scott Hall would do in WCW for Hector Garza. It's like, yeah, he got pinned, but or Hulk Hogan. It looked like a Hulk Hogan job to me. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like he didn't put anybody over.
I mean, it didn't bother me so much because I don't look at Show as like a top guy who's going to be elevating anybody. I mean, I almost look at the Hardys as bigger stars than Big Show. I mean, they probably don't see it that way at all because he's making $1 million or whatever. But, I mean, I just saw it as, you know, these, you know, the Hardys beating the Big Show. I didn't see it as like an elevation thing or anything because I don't look at Big Show as like, man, if someone beats Big Show, they're a superstar now.
Yeah, well, that was sort of
especially Big Show lately.
Yeah, he's gained more weight again too. That's not good. Helmsley and Jericho, I thought was good. I mean, you know, pretty good match, no doubt. But nowhere near the caliber of the matches they had last year. I mean, they had like 2 or 3 TV matches that like blew that one away, but it was a good match. I think that, you know, in watching it, there's a total difference in Jericho between now and last summer. Last summer, when Jericho and Helmsley were wrestling, it was like Jericho, everybody saw Jericho as this guy ready to beat Helmsley, ready for his big win, and ready to be a main eventer. And now, watching that match, they see Helmsley as a superstar and Jericho as a mid-carder, and the match was just a superstar against a mid-carder who had a good wrestling match. I mean, there was the emotion that was there last year in their matches. It wasn't even, you know, in the same ballpark last night.
Yeah.
So, aside from that, you know, I thought the first hour of the show kind of dragged up, and then up until the handicap match. And then the Austin thing.
The one thing I liked about the Austin interview was Jim Ross. And I know there's like a lot of...
good too.
There's a lot of commentators that can do a good job at commentary, but when you ask them to actually do some acting, they're like hideous. And Jim Ross, he's a great commentator, and he did a hell of a job acting last night too.
All through the show. You know, those little vignettes too, like when Vince was
the vignettes
him early. Yeah, and then, you know, the other thing was when he came out, and, you know, it's Oklahoma City, and he's, you know, so identified with Oklahoma and grew up there and everything. I mean, he looked like he was about to cry. And I don't know, you know what I mean? Like, you know, overwhelmed at this great response. And every time he goes to Oklahoma City, he gets that exact same response. So it's not like it's anything new, but it's never been on television before. Yeah. And that just made him so much more of a baby face to turn Austin heel. You know what I mean? It was that little things like that. You're right. Jim Ross was incredible on that, incredible performance too. So
I mean, if Michael Cole out there in Michael Cole's hometown, they beat him up. Austin would be a bigger babyface than ever.
Yeah, that's what they. Yeah, but I just Steve Austin. What a great job he did of. I just think like just acting.
Yeah, he was awesome.
Yeah,
kind of that, kind of being like a little bit remorseful, but it was just like, you know, way deep buried down there, and he hated everybody.
Yeah, and yeah, so. Yeah, I like that. I like that part of it. They did a good job on that. They are supposed to, what are they doing? Oh, Monday, Linda McMahon will be there on Monday and make some big announcement regarding the future of the WWF, probably involving Mick Foley or something. Maybe Mick Foley.
Funny thing last night, she goes, it felt great, Vince, to kick you in the, how do you say it? The gonads. And I thought, when has Vince ever said gonads?
No, he did on Monday.
He says grapefruits.
No, he said gonads on Monday. He did.
Oh, did he? Oh, I missed that show. Okay.
Yeah, that's why she used that.
Get.
Yeah. He was doing that in that really long interview he did early in the show. So yeah, so then she sliced the grapefruits and everything. So I don't know. I think we're seeing like we're building to Mick Foley and Vince.
Yeah.
So let's see what else we building to. Undertaker and Kane obviously against Triple H and Austin, which is kind of a throwaway. But I don't know. We've had 3 great pay-per-views, and actually we'll probably have the next one will probably be good too because they have so much talent. It's not impossible for them to do a bad pay-per-view because they did 2 or 3 of them last year, but they haven't. What was the last bad one? Survivor Series, right? Was Survivor Series bad? I'm trying to remember. It's a bad buy rate.
Yeah, I can't remember for the whole show.
King of the Ring stunk. I mean,
that was horrible. That was the last really horrible pay-per-view.
Yeah,
nothing could even compare.
But that's almost a year now. That's June. So, I mean, Armageddon was great. Although Armageddon was not great till the main event, but the main event saved it. And then, you know, Royal Rumble and No Way Out and WrestleMania, they were all great. So,
I wonder what they'll do for King of the Ring this year. I mean, last year they had these brackets, and everyone's having so much fun figuring these brackets out and all these great matches we're going to have on Killer.
And we got none of them.
And they do like the absolute worst possible matches in the brackets. And I wonder if they learned their lesson.
Yeah, it's like...
Remember there was like Benoit and Guerrero and Benoit and Angle and all these great matches planned out.
Guerrero like lost to Val Venus, right? And then Rikishi ends up in the finals and... Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Anyway.
Rikishi in bad shape, too.
Yeah. Let's see. Any other news before we start hitting emails?
That's about it. This is the calm after the storm.
Yes, absolutely. We still got tons of emails, though. Let's see. Where do we start? This is someone who actually sent the inflation-adjusted gate for every WrestleMania, and with adjustments for inflation. Let me see if this is right. When you adjust it for inflation, WrestleMania 6 was actually the biggest, the one with Hogan and Warrior.
It was like $4 million, right?
Well, it'd be $4.6 million. It was $3.5 million originally, but it adjusted to $4.6.
4.6 U.S. Canadian.
U.S.
Oh.
So this one that we had Sunday was the second biggest. The third one would have been WrestleMania 3, which would now, by today's money, be $2,470,000 and $2,470,286. So that's the deal there.
Nothing in the billions?
Nothing in the billions, no. I was wondering what the structure of Big Show's contract was. The WF has released Road Dogg, Mideon, and Cat, but not Big Show. They want him in shape so bad, and every time he doesn't get in shape, why don't they just release him? I think that the contracts are well, for one thing, I'm sure that Mideon had probably something in his contract where they could release him, and Road Dogg, violated company drug policy, so they had every right to release him. I think Big Show hasn't violated any policy, although, actually, I shouldn't say that because I know that they have in the contract that you have to be in shape, and that's what they always use the weight for. Basically, they haven't fired him because they don't want to fire him. I think that's your answer. I think that they still think there's something there. And certainly before, I think they didn't want to fire him because they figured he would go to the other side, and they don't want to give a talent to the other side. Now, there's a lot of guys in that type of a situation now that probably would get fired that a month ago would not.
Yeah. I think he had more success in WCW.
He was done better. Well, you know why?
Just the way they used him and everything.
Not just that. It was the same thing of when he first came in that we talk about all the time, the illusion of size. Big Show, when you have Undertaker and Kane and even like Mideon was there and all of these, tests, he's like bigger than everybody else, but he ain't that much bigger. Whereas in WCW, you only had Kevin Nash, who was a giant in WCW as well. And most of those top guys like Ric Flair and everything, he could be like a total, giant. In WWF, he had to get by on actual ability rather than being a giant, and ability-wise, he ain't that great.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Who would you say?
What was he trying off the top rope last night, by the way?
It was
they claimed it was an elbow, but it didn't look like that to me.
It looked like at the end it
looked
like
a cannonball into the swimming pool or something.
he threw his elbow after, though.
Okay, well,
nobody was laying there waiting for it. That's for sure.
No moonsault. We never got to see that Big Show moonsault. He just got too big.
Yeah, that's right. But when he was in training, we always heard this giant guy who can do a moonsault, and we actually never saw. Now, he did in Japan, and I think he did it maybe once or twice on Nitro, the drop kick off the top ropes. Remember that?
Oh, yeah. I think he's in the WWF, actually.
Did he do it? Oh, you know what? Yeah, I think he did it once.
Yeah.
I think he may have done it once.
That was quite a sight.
I remember he worked in San Jose, and I think it was San Jose. I know it was a show that I was at, and it was like this weirdest thing, and it was like, and they were saying like he didn't do this any other nights of that tour where he was a big boss man. You know how bad those big boss man, Big Show matches were, and this one it was just like he was up there, he was throwing drop kicks, and he was running around. He never stopped for like 8 minutes. I'm going like, wow, what is it? He was huge then too, so it's like the only night he ever did that. Anyway. In fact, the agent report, I talked to someone afterwards, and I go, did the agent report say anything about Big Show? And says, yeah, he was unusually active. Let's see. We could argue all day whether WrestleMania 17 was the best pay-per-view of all time. I wouldn't go of all time, but I would say the best WrestleMania and maybe best WWF show of all time. It was I think overall maybe I would say it was the best. But anyway, would you agree that no promotion has ever put on 3 pay-per-views in a row as good as Royal Rumble, No Way Out, and WrestleMania? 3. WCW put on a lot of good ones, but I only remember 2, that June and July in '96, that were both awesome in a row.
Yeah.
So I think August would have been Road Wild, and those always stunk. So I don't know what May was that year. And I can't remember WWF ever putting on 3 in a row this good. So that's last year. Well, last year they didn't, because they had last year they had a really good Royal Rumble. They had a really good No Way Out, but then WrestleMania wasn't that good.
Yeah.
And then they came back.
And the Armageddon before the Royal Rumble, I think that was the Boss Man Big Show, wasn't it?
Yeah, that
was Survivor Series. That was Hunter Vince.
No. It was Hunter and Vince and Boss Man Big Show. I think those were the 2 top matches, and that wasn't good. So then they came back after Mania, and Backlash was really good. And then I forget what was May. Was May the 60-minute match? No, or was that July? May was the 60-minute match with Rock and Hunter. So that was a good show. But then they came back in June with King of the Ring.
King of the Ring.
Right. So then July you came back with, what was it? July was that great show, the Fully Loaded with, that was a great show. Then August would have been SummerSlam. I think SummerSlam wasn't that good, if I remember. So, yeah, I think that probably is right. Someone's going to come up with some period of 3 straight great shows, but it may be right.
We got Undertaker Kane in the main event, so it's going to be a challenge this time.
To make it 4, yes. We got tons of emails about Robot Wars, by the way. We have a lot of listeners in the UK. It's awesome. I'll read a few of these. Just listen to your show. You're commenting about Robot Wars. Yes, it's popular here. It's a lot better than they sounded when you read the TNN information. They finished another series, and it's good fun to watch. It's on 6:45 on BBC Two, so it's got a great time slot. The robot names you were calling out, Sergeant Fashion, Matilda, they are house robots in the UK series. They are the Guardians and are constructed by BBC Special Effects Department, so they're very impressive. We got a lot more of them. Let's see. Do you think WF will continue with Jericho versus Triple H, or was it a one-time thing? Well, I mean, they'll wrestle again, but it's a one-time thing. Is there enough time for HHH to feud with Jericho at the next pay-per-view? No such luck. No, not the next one. A lot of comments, a lot of very, what's it called? A lot of praise for Nova yesterday. People liked him a lot. He was good. Very good.
Yeah, he was awesome.
In fact, we're going to replay it a week from today, which is Good Friday. We're going to be off doing the live show, so we're going to replay the Nova show from yesterday. What's going on with Hulk Hogan? He is trying to start his own wrestling company. Is what's going on with him. This is from Zach, who says, I was wondering if H has or ever will go back to Hayabusa as a name. Actually, he already has. He's wrestling May 5th. I think right before he got hurt, or right before he had the surgeries, he came back as Hayabusa, but he's going to be wrestling May the 5th. Hayabusa and Great Sasuke against, I think it's Mr. Ganasuke and Tetsuhiro Kuroda at the Kawasaki Stadium parking lot in one of those electric, barbed wire, explosive matches. So, anyway, that's his name. Also, do you think Yuji Nagata could carry a promotion on his back? I don't know how strong his back is. Yuji Nagata is an awesome worker, but it's one of those things where in New Japan, they've got that mentality that it's going to be Nakanishi, and everyone's going to complain forever. And I think Nakanishi's probably going to beat him on Monday's is it Monday? Yeah, Monday's the Osaka Dome. So anyway, everyone's going to be sad about that. And my last question is, how many more years do you think Vader has?
Why don't they have, I'm trying to think. You could have Nagata beat him, and then if Nakanishi ends up with the title, you got a bunch of matches there. So Nakanishi would be defending his title against someone who can work and have some good matches as champion.
Okay, so that would mean Nagata would wrestle. Actually, you know what? I think that they're going to put Fujita over Norton. I think they should, for sure. For sure they should, which means the New Japan means they probably won't. But if Fujita is going to defend, Fujita and Nakanishi is a pretty tough match. Fujita and Nagata is that good that it would probably be an excellent match, or at least a good match. So, yeah, you know what? They should, and then they could have Nakanishi beat Fujita down the line, and you still got, that'd be good. That's good. Okay, this is from Rob Harvey. He goes, I heard you mention on the show yesterday that you wanted feedback on the legitimate ratings of Robot Wars. We're only going to do 2 more Robot Wars ones, even though we got a lot more than this. On the BBC, it's presented as a student-type geeky show for teenagers. It gets shafted from primetime weekday to early afternoon Sunday, which tells you the kind of ratings it really gets. But it does a decent rating for a Sunday time slot. Realistically, TNN is buying garbage. And as someone who knows something about both subjects, it will shock me if WCW gets a worse time slot than this. Prepare to be shocked. That's all I got to say. Because it's getting prime time and WCW isn't. And this is from someone actually not in the UK, but in Canada. I just want to write a quick note to let you know that we get Robot Wars here in Edmonton. It's awesome. They get a bunch of mechanically inclined people, sometimes kids, and divide the robots into weight classes. Oh, God. Like the UFC. Then they have many different kinds of matches to decide who's the best robot. At the end of the show, the result is usually the same. Most of the robots involved are maimed or destroyed, and one robot is the winner. We get it on PBS in Edmonton. You know what? It's on PBS. There's PBS stations in the United States that have carried this, too. I do know that, actually. So I'm not sure where it originates from, but the host talks with a British accent. Yes, it comes from Britain. Let's see. So anyway, that's the story there. It's from Joel, who goes, I really enjoyed the show with Nova. He was a great guest. He should be booked again in the future. He will be. I read on the internet that WrestleMania will be in Florida next year. Is this true? It's not 100% true. There are actually several sites they're looking at, but the leading site absolutely is that, what's Tropicana Park? Tropicana Field, that the Devil Rays play at. But they haven't done a site survey or anything. It's not like it's done, but it is the leading candidate. Who do you see as the top babyface that will feud with Austin for the WF title?
Hunter.
Obviously it's Hunter and then Rock. Let's see. Just got a copy of the last J Cup. Even though it was short, I thought the Shima-Ricky Marvin match showed both guys have a great upside. Yeah, that was good. That was a really good match. Ricky Marvin reminds me of Ray Jr. early in his career. Yeah, I would agree. And Shima works very American as far as playing to the crowd. I just want to know what the outlook is for both men in their countries, as I'm sure they don't have much chance in the United States for now. I mean, Ricky Marvin does well as an undercard guy in EMLL, but I mean, because of his size, he's kind of an experience level. You know, he's kind of like mid to low card. Shima's, probably the number one guy for the Tori Human promotion, and it's a good promotion. If you ever watch Tori Human tapes, they're a lot of fun. Also, when Undertaker and Kane go back to main events, don't you think it's time for Vince to call up Shawn and say, clean up your act and come to TV this week? Well, like with Shawn, they tried with Shawn. I mean, I don't know what to say about Shawn anymore. You know what I mean? It's like, he's had, how many years? Everyone knows what the score is. They delayed and delayed and delayed, whatever it was, and then he showed up. They were going to shoot a big angle. He was going to be wrestling Hunter at this next pay-per-view. That was the plan, and he blew it. And I mean, as far as is he done for good? I mean, no one knows. He may not be, but they will not make any. I can tell you that I do not expect at any time in the near future that they will make any kind of plans for any big Shawn Michaels comeback, because they did and it didn't work out. What is the date of WrestleMania 18? I don't know. I think it's either going to be March 31st or April 7th of 2002. How did you and Brian first meet? We've never met. And how did we end up doing the show together? I called him up and I go, Brian, I need help to come do the show one day this week. So he did it, and he's still there.
That's right.
Yeah. Have you had a chance to view the email pay-per-view? No, I have not gotten the tape yet. I wish I had. See, it's from Joe, who goes, I wonder whatever happened to Magnum TA. He was always my favorite wrestler. When I was younger, he had a car accident, and then after an interview with Tony Schiavone, he sort of disappeared. I just know that he's living in Virginia, and I don't know what he's doing now, but he's around, and after he had that car accident, he was never really able to come back. I think, his spine he had some spinal problems, and I think he never really regained use of his hand, and he doesn't walk well or anything like that. But he did TV announcing for WCW for many years, and then it just he really wasn't that good as an announcer and just kind of didn't last.
Speaking of the hand, remember we were talking about great WCW moments? Got stuck about 6. Arn Anderson's retirement speech.
Yeah. You know what else?
That was awesome.
Arn Anderson's retirement speech and the Arn Anderson interviews building up to the reuniting of the Four Horsemen before Ric Flair's thing in Greenville, like for 4 straight weeks. Yeah. Remember when Dean Malenko and Benoit kept asking him and he kept saying no? Mm-hmm. That was great stuff. Looking at the current WCW roster, it seems Booker T is probably the most marketable wrestler still under contract. Well, Well, a lot of the guys haven't been
Most
fired.
marketable?
I mean, Scott Steiner and Bill Goldberg have not been fired, if you look at it that way. But and Booker T has not been signed by WWF yet, although that's kind of just a formality. Everyone expects that'll happen. If Rock jumps to WCW, wouldn't that cripple Booker T's chances of being elevated, since Booker T's biggest knock is that he's a poor man's Rock? Yeah, but you got to get people to watch that TV. That's a lot more important. If Booker T's the number one guy on a show that no one watches, he's not the number one guy in anything.
Plus, the reason he got over as a poor man's Rock wasn't anything that, it wasn't like his idea. He was told, do this stuff.
Yeah, I know.
So they'll totally differentiate him from the
Rock.
Oh,
yeah. He's going to change. He'll change. Why did WCW fire Vampiro? Because WWF didn't want him. That's your answer. I don't understand how they could want Sean Stasiak and not Vampiro. Yes, that's strange. I sort of can. Vampiro didn't do himself any favors in the last couple of months. At the same time, Sean Stasiak, I don't know. Like you said, Sean Stasiak.
Any favors at the end in the WWF either.
Who, Stasiak? Yeah, I know. Do you think Vampiro and Conan will go back to EMLL or something with AAA? I mean, I don't know what's going to happen with Conan. Vampiro, good shot of going. I think Vampiro is a good shot of him ending up back in Mexico, although I'm sure that's not what he wants to do. And Conan, who knows?
Is he looking XPW?
I don't think he's going to be allowed to because of his WCW contract. I know he's advertised to be there, but I can't imagine him doing it. Now, a lot of these guys, actually, Vampiro and Conan, there's going to be a lot of work for those guys for a couple of months, just on the independent scene and foreign tours and stuff like that. I think they're going to, there's going to be a period where they don't really have to go to a regular promotion because there's going to be, just like things here and there that pop up.
Well, how are their contracts structured then, where they couldn't go to XPW, but they could go to another independent group?
They can't. I'm saying after.
Oh, okay.
Well, Vampiro's cut. Vampiro could do whatever he wants. Conan hasn't been given 90 days notice, so for Conan, he's got to sit and wait, basically collect his check until he's fired, is basically his deal, and then, or end up in the WWF. Because he has not been told that he's not going there, and they haven't made their roster yet. So, those decisions, I mean, I know that on that first meeting, he didn't fare too well, but it wasn't like that decision was etched in stone. Because they didn't tell. If it was, he'd have been called and said that he was fired. You know what I mean? And that has not happened. So he's in that list of people they haven't decided about just yet. Okay, we got Donovan Morgan on the line. Donovan, how are you today?
Good. How are you guys doing?
We're doing really good. When I was actually talking to Mike Modest last night, and we were talking just about the current situation in wrestling and everything like that. And one of the things, how's everything going with All Pro Wrestling right now?
Well, right now, that was like one of the main things I wanted to talk about. Right now, All Pro Wrestling is doing probably the best it's ever done, and we're growing. One thing that's always, been a factor in the past was Roland was always on the internet and, always plugging away at APW, and now he's kind of drawn away from that. He's not so much on the internet as much anymore, and there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff going on that a lot of people don't know about. But I know, like, when Mike got his notice, that he was released, I was really, happy to see that he really wasn't that upset about it, and he was really taking it like a champ. I mean, I didn't hear him complain about it. He said, well, that's the business, and now I'm going to focus on APW. And so that's really good. We've got a lot of things going on right now, like our boot camp, for example. Our boot camp last year signed up 65 people, and that was a record number. And we just started our first class of the year in February, and it was 37 guys. So we had to actually break up that camp. So we're doing 2 camps. We're breaking it in half. And even though we're the top school, I feel, or one of the top schools, we're always doing things to try to improve. Like we have a championship bodybuilder, Greg Thurston, who's doing, now the strength and conditioning portions of the class. And since I talked to you last time, I know when I talked to you last, I was really down on the body situation here, and that's really, something that it doesn't turn around overnight, but since I talked to you last, is really coming along, and I think we're on the right track. The boot camp's awesome, and now we're talking to some possible angel investors. and we're close to possibly doing something with TV. So a lot of good stuff going on, and everyone here is more excited than they've ever been. So it's a great thing.
What's as far as how is your reaction? I mean, you've been working the UPW shows, and you're doing the feud with UPW both in Southern and Northern California. How's the reaction? How do you sense the reaction both in Southern and Northern California?
I think that when we first went down there, we did the invasion. Man, boy, I'm telling you, there was a lot of heat there, and I think that it was definitely something good. Even though Modest and myself and Tony and Roland are still going down there, the feud with Rick Bassman is kind of like ixnayed, like it's kind of over. And I was talking to a couple of people like Chris Daniels and Modest, and we were like, man, it's too bad we couldn't really push that a little bit farther because it was just getting so much heat. Roland out there and Rick out there together in the ring. People related to that. The smarts, they related to that, seeing it all on the internet. And I don't know, I think the reaction's good, especially when the UPW guys come down here. Our fans are really glad to see a new faces and good talent, and the same thing, vice versa. When we go down there, I think the reaction's really positive.
Why was the program with Rick and Roland pulled back?
Well, it wasn't done like on
purpose. Or just run its course?
Yeah, I think Rick had just thought, hey, it ran its course, and so we kind of just went, down from there. But we're still, Roland still comes out to the ring with Modest and myself when we tag, but it's not like anything directly, at Rick. So, but it's still good. It's still getting over. It's still a really awesome thing, and we're going to do something on the 14th. They're actually coming down to Vallejo, so that was awesome. Last time they backed their UPW rig into the building, and they all jumped in the ring. It was really, got a lot of heat.
Do you have any idea what Chris is going to be doing? Because they did the Loser Leaves Town match, and then the whole WCW thing fell through. So now you kind of stuck.
That was more UPW than APW. But yeah. So.
Yeah, I know Chris isn't going to be wrestling this month at all, but I'm sure that he'll be back in May. That's my guess, anyways. I actually just spent the weekend with him in Chicago. When we were up there for MCW Midwest Championship Wrestling, and we were talking a lot about it. Yeah, I think he'll come back. I know he helps out a lot with the booking there and stuff, so I think it's just a matter. I know he's going to try and delve into Japan right now, and that's his first priority. So that's what I've heard from Chris.
Now, you mentioned you were in Chicago and everything. You've been getting your name out and wrestling in a lot of different places. What places have you been besides Chicago and UPW?
Well, I'm going to Harley Races. I'm going to do something for him on the 11th and 12th of May. Of course, I've been doing UPW, APW, and then I'm doing, small indies here and there. The thing is, it's like right now I'm to the point where I won't just go out and just do any old independent promotion. But now, I've kind of built that up. I'm not saying I'm a superstar or anything, because I'm far from it, but I can kind of pick and choose between certain indies. And right now MCW is actually like one of my favorites. I kind of compare it to APW in a way, because the guy that runs it, Brian Zinner, he was bringing in a lot of talent, a lot of big name talent like King Kong Bundy and Honky Tonk Man and those kind of guys for a while, and then he was losing money, and so he said, well, I'd rather lose money with the young talent than with the old talent, so I'm going to bring in a bunch of young guys. So that's what he's been doing. Like last show, Simon Diamond, Danny Doring, Chris Chetty, Vic Capri, Reckless Youth, myself, Chris Daniels, we were all on the show, and I'm telling you, it's definitely comparable to APW as far as the in-ring style. A lot of good wrestlers there, and that's probably one of my favorites. So he gives me a lot of work. I went to Chicago 3 times in the month of March, so alone. So he's actually running, quite regularly, and so that, along with APW, UPW, and Harley Race in the mix, I stay pretty busy.
As far as like the guys that you're training right now, and some of the younger guys in APW, Is there anyone that like stands out? Because Mike was really praising Miyake.
Yes, Miyake France is one of those guys. Like he is a natural when it comes to athletic ability, and he's a natural when it comes to understanding psychology. He's got a ton of promise, and if he puts on about 10 more pounds of muscle, he'll definitely be in the hunt and definitely make some money in the business. There's another guy too. His name's Tommy Blaze. His real name's Corey Carey, and he's going to be making his debut next weekend in Vallejo. But he is going to make some money in this business. He is definitely really good. Once he gets some matches under his belt, I'm sure people are going to be talking about him a lot. So we've definitely got those key guys that are coming up, those future main eventer type caliber guys that we're slowly developing, and there's not just one of them. There's actually 2 or 3. So that's definitely a good thing.
How's Boyce LeGrand done in the last couple of months? Because I probably haven't seen him like live in since the last time I saw you guys wrestle.
Boyce is one of those guys that he's such a nice guy, and he's good in the ring, and he's a natural in the ring. But he's one of those guys that just disappoints me from a promotion standpoint because he doesn't push himself to the limit. He doesn't market himself. He doesn't really spend that much time in the gym. It's pretty much just a weekend thing for him. And that Modest has talked to him. I've talked to him, and we're just like, come on, boys, come on. And he's like, well, I'm getting married right now. After I get married, now I'm going to turn it around. So that's what we're waiting for. 'Cause Boyce is one of those guys that could be a big star if he just give himself the opportunity. And it was like with me when I started pushing myself out there on the indie scene. It wasn't like I didn't have the luxury that Mike Modest had, where a lot of people knew who Mike was because Mike was just incredible and phenomenal, knew psychology. And so that just in itself, the word traveled, and he got out there. With me, there was a lot of tapes sent out, a lot of talking to people, and I really had to hustle. But it feels good to have earned that, and so I hope the same thing happens to Boyce here soon.
And we got a lot of emails in here about various and sundry things in wrestling when it gets to. This is from Tim, who goes, in the early 90s, did the Duke of Dorchester, who was Pete Doherty, win the WWF title from Hulk Hogan in the Boston Gardens? No, absolutely not. This never happened. I think that Pete Doherty did get a win, who always lost in Boston. I think he did get a win on one show, at his last match, but it absolutely was not against Hulk Hogan. A lot of praise for Steve Austin from last night. Donovan, did you watch the show last night?
I actually didn't get a chance to.
Okay, yeah, Steve Austin did a tremendous interview segment. This is, what did you think of the poll where Canada came in first as producing the best pro wrestlers? Do you agree or not? I disagree. I was going to look at the country that produces the most pro wrestlers is Mexico. As far as the most good ones, I would say certainly up until a few years ago, I would say Japan. Now it might not be the Japan. It might be United States, but I would not say Canada. Who are the top 5 amateur wrestlers in professional wrestling? Kurt Angle was a gold medalist, so he'd be up there. Dan Severn, certainly in his day. Steve Williams in his day. Jun Akiyama, Yuji Nagata, Manabu Nakanishi. Are there any I'm leaving out, Brian?
He said the best.
They said the top amateur style.
Oh, okay.
The top amateurs that are in pro wrestling, not necessarily the best workers. I mean, the best pro wrestling workers that were great amateur wrestlers would be Yuji Nagata, Jun Akiyama, and Kurt Angle.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I may be missing somebody, but this is Justin, who says the Big Show did a top rope drop kick against Viscera on Raw in December 1999, but it was not picture perfect. Somebody actually has 3 pay-per-views in a row that may have been better. 1989 WCW Chi-Town Rumble, which actually I was at that show. That was not a great show, but it was the Flair Steamboat main event was great. Then Wrestle War, which was a hell of a show, and the Great American Bash, which was really a hell of a show. They may have been as good as the last 3 WWFs. Main event caliber-wise, they were probably better, actually. As good, if not better. Let me see. Here's another person who has the exact same three. Chi-Town Rumble, Great American Bash, and Wrestle War 1989. Let's see. Why won't WWF sign Rob Van Dam? He goes, it's really pissing me off. WWF, they pulled their wrestlers that worked with Rob Van Dam, and the bottom line was the wrestlers who worked with him did not give him a good recommendation, and WWF takes they want a harmonious locker room, because when you got that many guys, Donovan can attest to it. You get like someone, even if they're really talented, in the locker room was always complaining and everything. It kind of ruins the mood of the whole. It can ruin the mood of the whole company, don't you think?
Oh, definitely.
And I'm not saying that. I'm not saying Rob Van Dam is like that, but I'm just saying that's why the WWF pulls its wrestlers. Go ahead, Donovan.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's WWF is very much based on what they hear, especially from the other boys. The people that say, well, it doesn't matter what the boys say; it matters what the suits say. That's not true. A lot of the boys, I know when Crash was there, Crash would tell me, man, this locker room is, and he goes, I wasn't here in the past, but everyone's saying this is the best locker room that we've ever had here, at the Fed, and so definitely, turned around to that now, and I think they're really careful of who they bring in there and very leery of others.
That's why a lot of guys that a lot of people thought would be a given would be signed by them from WCW have not been signed, because they want a good atmosphere, and they don't want, because it only takes, like, if the top, because a lot, if the top guys behave a certain way, that's kind of how the younger guys learn to behave. Donovan probably, like in your case, you probably learned how to behave around wrestling from the guys from Modest and those kind of guys. If they had like a real negative attitude, you'd end up with a negative attitude.
Definitely.
And that's.
And there were
right?
times, where I'd say the wrong thing, and I would get chewed out. I mean, almost to the point, when I was like 19, of tears. It's like, but if I didn't have that, I wouldn't know how to act. There's so many people that don't know how to act.
This is another one with those same three pay-per-views. Here we go.
That may be it.
Yeah. If I remember, SummerSlam was a damn good show. It had the tables, ladders, and chairs. That's right, that was awesome. It had the big bump by Shane McMahon. It had the 2 out of 3 fall Benoit Jericho. Rock against Angle against.
That's kind of disappointing, though.
Yeah, Benoit Angle, it was good though. The undercard wasn't too good, but I wouldn't call it a bad show. Val Venus and Eddie was decent. Cat against Terry. Taz against Lawler. Those weren't that good. X-Pac and Road Dogg. I remember that being disappointing as hell. And RTC against Too Cool, and Rikishi and Undertaker against Kane. Undertaker against Kane. I've seen enough of those. When will Jerry Lynn and Tajiri start? Jerry Lynn actually wrestled at the Access, and also wrestled at a house show the week before. So they just haven't debuted on TV. Tajiri, they just have not started him. And how long will Tarzan Boy be out? We don't know for sure, but looking like 6 months minimum. Long time. Okay. What's going to happen to Joey Styles and Don Callis? I don't think they know. There's going to be people who start something up. Whether they'll get anywhere or not, I don't know.
Yeah.
But all of these kind of guys, they're all going to probably be getting calls. And it's the landscape. It's just such a strange landscape right now that, these kind of guys, everyone unless they're with WWF is kind of sitting going like, okay, they're kind of sitting waiting for something to happen.
Right.
What's the reaction? I mean, a lot of guys, let's say like, as far as like your students and everything,
right?
Does it really affect them or anything, or is that just something like it's so far away that they're just learning to be wrestlers?
Well, I think for most of them, it's something that's so far away, and right now, for some of them, even that they think, oh man, what a cool thing, and the rest of us are going, oh my gosh, and putting our hands to our foreheads. But it's one of those things. I think it's too far away for the guys that are in the beginners camp. The guys that are in semi-pro now are kind of like the guys like Mark Smith and Miyake, and those kind of guys are. We've kind of taken a double opinion. The first opinion that we were all talking about this the other night was this could be good in the long run when someone else, like the Bischoff or something, doesn't go away and he starts something back up, because definitely there's going to be that need for the talent that WWF hasn't already snatched up. And because let's face it, they've snatched up a lot of talent, over the past year. So that could be a good thing. And, the bad side is if nothing really gets going, you have a few startups, but they run like 5 TV shows like UWA and go out of business, then, it's bad. So in the long run, it could be bad, but you just got to keep that open mind. I think right now we're just kind of seeing how it all formulates.
Yeah, there's definitely room as far as I think that the public will buy a well-run second promotion easily once they're aware of it. But the key is it needs a good time slot, and it needs people who are willing to, survive that early period, because it's not going to be an immediate hit. It just can't be.
What the problem is, and what I've seen so much, is it needs wrestling people. They need wrestling people in the right places, and they need the TV people in the right places.
And not mix them up.
Because, at UWA, when I was there, it was like, I'm watching this, and there's TV people doing the angles and the storylines, and I'm just going, whoa, man, I hope this gets over, because I'm crossing my fingers here.
It's kind of why I hope the whole WCW show takes off. I just want it to take off so bad, because that'll start opening doors. I mean, if they start WCW up and the thing just tanks, I mean, it's going to be years.
I tell you what, you're right. And the other thing that's really scary is if it does tank, and there is a possibility it will. What will really be scary at that point is people will go, "Oh my God, even Vince McMahon can't do it," and that's going to scare a lot of people off if that were to happen.
But what do you think the probability is of that happening? I don't know. I mean, I think I think
the whole problem is the way that it might fail.
He's got a lot on his plate.
First off, the time slot, and second off, they've only got those 24 guys, none of whom are going to pop a huge rating. I mean, they may all be great workers and everything like that, but there's nobody on that show that is going to help draw like a 5 rating or anything like that. They need to bring in some names, and right now the problem is they may not be bringing in those names. It's the whole contract deal.
Because of the contract, they don't want to upset their salary structure.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, if he had Goldberg and Steiner and Booker Flair and everybody, and he didn't care about screwing up the salary structure and decided, I'm going to go for it, I'm going to turn this thing around, I think it would work.
He could do it.
Easily.
Sure. With
if they had all those names, but if they don't have those names and they're in that time slot, it's going to be hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it'll be hard, but I really think that he'll find a way to make it work.
Do these guys have a chance in the new WCW? Jim Mitchell, I certainly have not heard his name at all, but I wouldn't say he doesn't have a chance. Kid Cash I hope he gets a shot there because he's very good. Easy Money is another one who I really hope gets a shot. I think that he will because he did real well at the end in WCW. Juventud Guerrera is not going to get any shot anytime soon.
He did get in a fight, though.
What?
He got in a fight, though.
Yeah, he did. You're right. That's not going to help. But, I think that he'll...
But Sean O'Hare did, too, so...
Yeah, but Sean O'Hare, and Chuck Palumbo. And Palumbo and Stasiak, they got that thing going for him that will always give him a chance. The tall and the body.
Mm-hmm.
Juventud Guerrera does not have a chance of going now. I mean, down the road, if he has a good track record for 6 months, I think that he could probably get in because he's a phenomenal talent, but they're not going to take him now. Chris Daniels and Mike Modest, we talked about those guys. It's not going to happen now. Hopefully they will get a chance down the road. Okay. Another one. 1989, Chi-Town Rumble, Music City Showdown, and Great American Bash. Wasn't Music City Showdown basically a one-match show, though? They had one or two other matches that were pretty decent, but it was it didn't have the depth. The Great American Bash was, a super show, though. Also, WWF 1992, Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, and SummerSlam were very good. Royal Rumble was very good. WrestleMania that year was good, but it had a terrible main event, because that was the Hogan-Sid main event. SummerSlam 92, I think, was good. That's Wembley. That was a hell of a show.
Did they jump right from WrestleMania to SummerSlam that year? There was no King of the Ring? When did that start?
Yeah, the King of the Ring came in around 94.
Yeah.
Maybe 93, 94. Let's see. Oh my God. Robot Wars airs on Sunday nights on KTEH in the Bay Area, which is the public broadcasting station. So it's already on here. It's hosted by the guy who plays Lister on the BBC comedy Red Dwarf, which means nothing to me, but probably means a lot to our listeners in England. He goes, it's far better than
I was going to say
the US
Tiny Lister.
Tiny, yeah, I know, the U.S. knockoff Battle Buster. So I just want to make mention that tonight in about 3 hours, they're going to be the Pride pay-per-view, if you've got a dish, which eliminates a lot of people, most everyone actually. But anyway, that's on tonight. I wanted to make mention of that. We've got Donovan Morgan of All Pro Wrestling here. We've got a full bank of phone calls. We're going to start with Terry in North Carolina. Terry, how are you?
I'm doing fine, David. Okay, yes, well, didn't last year, like in 1999, when Shane Douglas had his problem with ECW, didn't he try to go to the WWF and they turned him down? What happened in the situation?
They negotiated with him, and they were real far apart on money, so he ended up going to WCW, which offered a better deal. But they did negotiate with him. The big thing with Douglas was when those guys, Benoit and all them, walked out. Douglas and Conan walked out with him, and WWF did not want Douglas or Conan, and they kind of had to go back to WCW. So that's where I think, they didn't want Douglas January of last year, so I don't know how he's going to fit in. He's a good talker. He's not young, and I know they wanted to keep the younger guys rather than the older guys, so I don't know. Plus, he's got a lot of heat with Paul Heyman, tremendous heat with Paul Heyman, and Paul Heyman is one of the people that's being asked on who to come in and who not to come in. So, I'd say Douglas' chances are probably less than 50%, if just as a guess.
Even his talking ability's gone way downhill lately, though.
Well, that doesn't help either, then.
What's the situation on Joel Gertner? Is he going to get a shot at anywhere?
Not that I've heard.
Yeah, 'cause I didn't hear his name lately either. Yeah, 'cause I think
he's just been doing independence and doing independent stuff in the Northeast.
Okay, and another archive question too. What happened with the WWF? WCW title whenever they brought it on the WWF television with Ric Flair that time. What was the deal behind that?
Flair never lost the belt in the ring, and he was fired for not agreeing to drop it. And then they wanted him back, which was very strange. And so he took the belt with him on WWF TV and had it on WWF TV for a couple of months. And then there was actually a big court case between WWF and WCW. And the court ruled that the belt was the possession of WCW. So Flair was not allowed to, they had to give the belt back. So then Flair and Vince McMahon went and made a belt that was an exact duplicate. And they put that on TV for about a week, and WCW went to court again and beat Vince in court again. And that's when they started doing that blacking out thing until the Royal Rumble when Flair won the WWF title. So that's the story on that.
And how did that whole court thing work? Because Flair, he had to make the $25,000 deposit, right?
Right. But
so if they hadn't given him the money back, the belt was technically his.
Yeah, I guess
just the whole thing about they could just show it on TV because it was
I guess the
kind of like
feeling
the
was
whole
that,
WCW thing when Hall and Nash went over.
I think that the whole deal was, well, Hall and Nash came later, but the whole deal was that...
similar to that.
Yeah, the whole deal was that if they gave him... That he put a deposit down on the belt, so if they gave him the money back, then he had to give them the belt back. But
so
the
he
belt
did get $25,000.
Yeah, but the belt was even though Flair had the deposit, and all that, the belt was the property of the company itself and a trademark of the company, and they were using another company's trademark on their TV. So that's how it went down.
So what about Medusa? Couldn't they sue the Medusa incident?
Medusa, for throwing the belt in the garbage, they just threw the belt in the garbage. They may have used the Medusa thing as one of the points in the suit when they sued WCW later. I'm not sure if they used it or not. But it wasn't like they were coming out week after week with the belt and showing the belt. It was more like they had a belt and threw it in the garbage. So I don't know. That's, again, I don't know exactly how that all, would have been, legally. But, she didn't use it after that very first TV appearance. She just came in, they threw it in the garbage, and they never talked about it again.
Okay, so that's what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what about Brian Adams, Brian Clark? They got a chance to the new WCW?
Who? Brian Adams?
Chronic.
Brian Adams, I don't like his chances, and Brian Clark and Vince did not leave on the best of terms, but it was many years ago, so who knows? But I really haven't heard anything other than I don't think they were on the list of the 24 that WWF bought, so it's up in the air. I haven't heard of them being fired, either of them being fired either, so, these decisions haven't been fully made yet.
Yeah, because I think they probably might give it a new WCW.
I think there's a good chance that they won't, actually. Pretty good chance. Those guys, they complain about doing jobs, and, I will say this. You will not get away with that in the WWF today, unless maybe you're Steve Austin. But I mean, not mid-card guys. No way. It won't even be tolerated for a second.
Did Triple H try it a few times too?
No, Triple H is it's just totally different.
He doesn't so much. It's not like he comes up and goes, "I'm not going to drop the title." It's like, why don't we do this instead? And he convinces them
he's very good at coming up with scenarios,
plan.
and the scenarios protect him. But that's not. I mean, if Vince McMahon said, like, okay, it's your turn to drop the title, he wouldn't say no. He wouldn't even think of saying no. He would just go, okay, well, we'll do it this way, and he'll do it in a way that protects himself.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. So I know Rock, he gets a lot of talent over, too. So I pretty much respect him for that also.
What, Rock putting people over? Yeah, you got to respect Rock as far as, I don't think I've ever seen a guy in the business as over as him that puts over so many guys. I mean, granted, he puts guys over on Monday, and then he would always beat them back on Tuesday. but he still did put, like Benoit and a lot of guys. He put Benoit and a lot of guys over. Even Boss Man and stuff. Even if
he got his win back on SmackDown, it wasn't like on Raw. He did the old Lex Luger job or made him look stupid getting the win or anything like that.
Oh no, he was always professional. Yeah, always professional. Yeah, I know those kind of jobs like those where like the Scott Hall or the Kevin Nash job, he never did those. I mean, even though they were flukes, it was like, it was always outside interference, but it wasn't like he didn't get up and start laughing, I just did a job, like, you know what I mean? That shows how fake wrestling is, type of an attitude. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Don't you hate that? When guys are like, you know what I mean? When guys are like, I don't want to say expose the business is such an antiquated term, but when guys like show the fans that they're not taking it seriously. To me, like as a fan, I feel like, hey, it's like I take it as serious entertainment. Don't insult me when I'm watching it. You know what I mean?
Definitely. And another thing too is those guys can still get over, even by putting someone else over. If I have to put someone else over, I can still get over by the way I structure the match and by really having a good, solid match. And a lot of people don't realize that. They just think, well, I got to do the job, screw you, But
especially now, if you have a great job, if you have a great match, both guys get over. And if you have a shitty match, it really doesn't matter who wins because neither of you really got over.
Exactly. Yeah. Absolutely. That's a great point. Great point.
I mean, everyone looks back at WrestleMania with Brett and Austin as, this big turning point for Steve Austin as a babyface and everything, and he lost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. No, that's definitely true.
Let's go to Franco in Ontario. Franco, what's up?
Hi, guys. How you doing?
Doing good.
Good. I have a friend of mine who actually I called on last couple of days ago. Anyway, it was a pretty busy show. It was a great show, and I wanted to give you some information. I have a friend of mine who goes to university in Minnesota. I don't know the exact university, and he saw on a board. I don't know whether it was an audition call or a casting call. They were looking for extras. They were looking for 500 people. So he showed up. This was last Saturday. He showed up at this casting call to see if he could make some money as an extra, and apparently. This is a Fusient, the same company that wanted to buy WCW.
Oh, Brian, have we talked about this one? No, that's not. Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
And he says to me, he was asking to see, what exactly it was for a commercial or for. It's actually, and this guy's, don't quote me on this, but this is what my friend told me. Apparently, Fusient is trying to put together a group of wrestlers to get a series of videotapes together to launch and sell them. With the first edition being, they're going to pay extras to sit in the stands, bring out maybe 10 or 12 matches, do something of like a pay-per-view on cassette and sort of put some commercials together and market it across the states and see if they can do town to town, city to city, once a month or once every couple of weeks, and and see if they can build that way. Have you heard of anything of this? And I've been going crazy for 3 days on the internet here trying to find something, and then next thing I know, I find Fusion's interested in buying the Blair Witch Products production company.
Artisan Entertainment.
Yeah. Have you heard anything like that?
Fusion still has ideas about wrestling. They just don't know what they are. But that is, I mean, there are, you know, they still, you know, it's like they haven't given up on the idea of wrestling. But the problem is that, like, you know, they're trying to go at it in a way that doesn't involve, you know, good television. And I just don't think that you can tour without good television on a national basis. I mean,
and WCW did the thing before where they hired people to sit in the crowd and kind of bombed. You know, you got. They
didn't hire people.
I mean,
they never hired
cheered,
people. It was AWF was the one that hired people to sit in the crowd.
Right.
Didn't they do this for a while with like the Orlando tapings though?
No, the Orlando tapings, they let people in free and they would give them the applause meter, you know, like at a game show or something. And so it was the fake crowd noise. Yeah, they tried that too. They won't do that because I know with Bischoff, I think Bischoff in hindsight realized that atmosphere didn't work. But you know, I mean, you know, Matt Rats has a fake crowd. You know, I mean, it's like they hire all these like pretty teenage girls to be in the crowd to make it look like, you know, and it actually. You know, Matt Rats, Donovan, by any chance have you seen any of that?
No, I haven't.
Matt Rats. Okay. It's, there's something there, but their appeal is so geared towards teenage girls that they're making a mistake because they actually have, they've got some guys, you know, and I think you're probably familiar with, you know, Ted Annis or Teddy Hart. Yeah. I think they're guys he's trained. And, I mean, there's no psychology. I mean, when I say no, I mean no psychology whatsoever. They do like 2 to 3 minute matches of some of the most incredible high flying stuff. And it's actually pretty entertaining and at the same time numbing in that when it's over, you know what I mean? It's, you know, it doesn't get to you, but you're kind of like amazed by watching it at the same time.
Right.
But, you know, but I mean, like I watched the debut and I was super impressed with the potential of many of the guys there, as far as if they learned to work and everything. They had great acrobatic moves, but I mean at the same time when like that audience feel was such that I couldn't see a wrestling fan sitting through it because the whole audience is teenage girls and they're like it's such a teenager product that I thought, you know, unless it was, you know, it's not going to get over something touring, put it that way.
Yeah.
One other thing I wanted to ask you guys, actually two things. I think they killed Jericho last night by giving Hunter the belt. I don't think anybody's the winner there with whatever they were trying to do. Maybe by Triple H.
Hunter's the winner.
Hunter's the winner. Hunter can win anything he wants, I think, in the WWF. But I just think that Jericho, they really, really hurt Jericho by taking the belt away from him. I don't know whether there's a Trish Stratus angle coming up with Jericho or anything like that. But the other thing is, with no clear-cut baby face in the company now, is there any way that Vince drops some money to bring in Goldberg at some point in the next pay-per-view or the pay-per-view after that?
It's not going to happen on the next pay-per-view. It's not going to happen like that. But as far as any way, it's Vince's call. You know, it's like
they need to use him to rebuild WCW. Yeah. Not bring him in for a WWF show.
But I mean, the whole thing is and I can see where Vince is coming from. Vince McMahon has a certain salary structure, and Bill Goldberg, because of his contract, would just blow that salary structure out of the water. And I think that it's more important to Vince to maintain it because he doesn't want to be like baseball and doesn't want to be like basketball and these other sports that actually lose money. I mean, give him credit; he's got full control, and he's not gonna. When you break it for one guy, if he were to bring in Bill Gold, well, you know, but again, he did. You're right. He did with Big Show.
And Goldberg has a far bigger upside, and they need him to help turn a company around. Big Show's just a big guy that wrestles hardcore matches.
Okay, but at the time they signed
Hardys.
Okay, and you're right. Okay, but at the time they signed Big Show a couple of years ago, they thought he was going to be the thing in wrestling. That's why they signed him to that deal. I mean, if they had thought that Big Show was going to be in this position, they would not have signed him for 1/4 of what they signed him for. You know,
they need Goldberg to be that thing.
Yeah. No, I think that it's very, very important that they make that move. I just don't know that they're going to make that move. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, because it's Vince's decision, and this is one decision that, everyone knows what the upside and the downside is, and it's just going to be a call Vince makes one way or the other.
Yeah. And one thing about Jericho, real quick, I don't think it hurt him that badly in that, A, he lost to Hunter, who beats everybody, so what's the big deal? And B, they really hadn't been pushing that Intercontinental title as anything special. I mean, it's not like Jericho was defending this title and, like they were trying to do with Benoit for a while, just beating guy after guy to make it look like, a viable title. It's just a belt that he had. He was doing jobs everywhere with that belt, so I don't think it hurt him.
Last thing here. On Monday night, does anybody expect Linda to come out and Shane maybe to show up? Are we expecting some sort of a WCW angle in any way, shape, or form? Because since WrestleMania, there hasn't been, other than I want to say hi to the boys up on in the rafters. There hasn't been anything, and I'm wondering, are they going to start, promoting this? Because like you guys are saying, and you've been saying it since day one that you heard. They need to promote it, and the WCW fan, I think they've lost the WCW fan. And for them even to get the WCW fan to turn the TV on that first show, they got to start promoting it. And every wrestling fan is a wrestling fan above and beyond WCW and WWF. But I think that if the WCW fan does click on Raw for 5 or 10 minutes, the first 5 or the last 10 or somewhere at 10
I think
o'clock.
a lot of WCW fans, obviously from the rating, did watch Raw Monday.
Yeah, but
are they
watching to hear, when is this new launch? Are they watching to see, when is this new WCW starting? And from what I understand,
or are they watching because there's nothing else?
That's true too.
a little bit of everything.
What is this Shane McMahon presents the WCW? What the heck is that?
That's what the tickets for this non-existent event stated. But that's
the fact that they postponed it makes me think that they're not going to do something like that on Monday. I think it'll probably be something like Linda comes out and goes, "You want a divorce? Fine, I want a divorce. I want half your money." And then we'll have to watch Vince grovel for 3 months trying to get on this side. And that beats the TV.
I think that's what it's going to be too.
Yeah. Great, guys. Great show. Thanks very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Okay, let's go to Chris in Long Island. Chris, what's up?
Hi, how's it going?
It's going good.
I have a comment and a question for Donovan. The only match I've seen of him so far was off the APW website, the Click movie.
Right.
It was a match with Jardy France, I believe his name is. It was a great match. Just want to say, I hope you get a shot somewhere, WWF, or where else is there, but WWF right now.
I appreciate that.
And also, what I was going to ask from like an independent wrestler perspective, as far as the whole, the single ownership of the two major companies now, is it kind of frustrating now that like at least before, if you were hardworking and noticed independent guy, even though it took Modest and Daniels a long time, two guys like that got a lot of attention outside of the big two, that there would at least be some kind of fighting between the two companies to say, well, let's grab Daniels before WCW gets them, or vice versa. Now that there's only that one company, does it kind of like, I don't want to say like hurt your motivation or anything, because I'm sure I know you're dedicated to what you do and everything, but I mean, does that linger in your mind at all, that like, there's not kind of...
I mean, it was always nice because that, for the boys' sake anyways, because if something happened over at WWF, they could go jump ship to WCW.
Right.
So you had both those things to play against, but I think at the moment, like right when it happened, when WWF took over WCW, I think everyone's, opinion was like, man, this is really going to hurt the business. It's going to hurt the boys. But then I started to think, and I kind of thought, I doubted, Vince and stuff before, and every time I do, it ends up turning around for the better. So.
Except football.
Bodybuilding.
In wrestling, Vince has a phenomenal track record.
Yeah, and in pro wrestling, he's definitely the man, and so you never know what could happen. But I think, we're just trying to wait and see what happens before we make any, drastic decisions.
Especially too, because it was hard to tell because Jardy France is obviously a smaller guy, and you looked a lot bigger in comparison to him, but I assume on scale to the WF guys, you're also you'd be a cruiserweight, right?
Oh, definitely.
Okay, because that's the only match I've seen with you. So, like I said, so I had to compare. So, next to him, you look pretty big.
Yeah, I think if WCW was still running and they were still pushing a lot of the cruisers, I think my opinion is I think I would fit in, good there, but.
Oh yeah, I think without question,
that's not happening. So.
Yeah, you definitely showed ability in that match. I mean, just from the one match that I saw. I had a couple questions for Dave too. The Triple H, the IC title. Do you think that's just to maybe elevate that title? I mean, because like Ryan was saying, they really haven't. The title really hasn't meant a lot in a long time. And
yeah, actually I do, and I think it's also one of those things where they want, like, you've got Austin with a belt and Hunter with a belt with Vince, and it's kind of like. Definitely to elevate the belt and also to just really make that Austin Hunter thing, duo look like the two real superstars. And, Hunter will have his belt, to set up when they do the turn, and they do the singles match between the two of them, or the series of singles matches.
The belt and get more heat. And
yeah, if he drops the title, like if he does elevate it and then drops it to Benoit or Jericho or somebody, then at least it would mean something.
The problem is I think they're going to do a good job trying to elevate it, but then in the end it's going to be something like, Austin before their pay-per-view match or whatever costs him the belt or something like that, and so it'll be like, Austin was the one that beat Hunter as opposed to Benoit or whoever wins the belt from him being the guy that actually wins.
Yeah, when he loses it, the guy wins that fluke thing where it,
it's not going to be Hunter putting someone over clean in the middle.
Yeah, I know. Also, too, because now, all right, if Undertaker and Kane are going to be basically the two top faces, at least up until when Rock comes back, I mean, do you think that's in their minds is what they want to do, or will they at least give us at least, like, maybe some matches with, like, Benoit and Jericho as a team, maybe against, Triple H and Austin, at least just for something
I mean,
different?
we may get it on Raw and SmackDown, sure.
But I mean, even some kind of, like, as a primary angle, not just like a one-time match where they build up an angle on Raw.
I mean, it could, I just don't see it. It doesn't seem like that's the direction they're going. I see Benoit, and, it looks to me like you got Benoit and Jericho being built up for Regal and Angle.
So then would you say that their plan for the next few months is just strictly a series of tag and singles matches between Undertaker, Kane, Triple H, and Austin until they turn Triple H?
I mean, I sense it's going to be this tag, and then it'll be Austin and Undertaker doing a program, and then it'll either be and after that, that's when Hunter will do the turn. That's how I see it. I mean, no one's told me that specifically, but it's been hinted to me pretty much too, though.
Right. And I was listening to an audio show from Between the Ropes with Mikey Whipwreck recently. It was earlier in March 8th, I think it was. And he was a really, really entertaining guest, and I think if you should try and get him on the show because he was very funny and I think he'd be the type of guest that just like they like Nova and Zink, all the listeners, I think he would fit right into that category. So if you could work that out, I think it'd be great. And also, is there any shot of him, of Heyman trying to get him into teaming with Tajiri, maybe throw him into that whole tag team mix with the Hardys and Edge and Christian, because I think it would work perfect in that sort of.
I'm sure Heyman will try. I'm sure Heyman will try, and those are like, to me, the odds of a guy like Whipwreck getting in are probably better on the WCW side.
Right.
Like as a team as opposed to unless they, it's like with Edge and Christian, I don't see that one happening.
Okay.
I mean, if they send the Hardys over there, which I mean, it's all a possibility. Then I could see it, but I would see them probably being more likely on the WCW side, both because for the size reason, and also just because. The WWF side, the roster's packed.
Yeah, that's true, too. Yeah, he said the one thing he has going for him is he's friends with guys like Foley and Benoit and everybody, and they like him, and he's got, Heyman there to hopefully sort of, go to bat for him. So I just think that team was too good in ECW for to be split up like that. I think if they got a shot in WWF, they would have got over with the type of matches that they had with FBI, that they had them with Hardy Boys and Edge and Christian and Dudleys and all that. I think it would just add to that, because right now those are the three teams they have. Those are really the only three teams they have that work that style. So after a while, there's only so much you could do with them. So
yeah, I think we've seen those three teams against each other. I mean, and not that I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing Hardy's and Edge and Christian, this on Monday, but again, as far as being something fresh, it's not fresh.
Okay, all right.
It can't be fresh anymore.
Okay? I'll let you go, and thanks a lot, and good luck for Donovan and his career, and thanks for holding me over.
Okay, cool. I want to get.
Regal was so funny last night talking to the Hardys.
Yeah.
Young Jeff.
So, young Jeffrey. Yeah.
Young Jeff.
Get a couple of these things in here. Who did Sean O'Hare, Palumbo, and Jason Jett get into fights with? Okay, let's see. Jason Jett and Sean O'Hare went about 30 seconds before Sean O'Hare got a choke on him, right?
Yep.
Got that one right? And Palumbo tried to wrestle with Rick Steiner, which was a bad idea. Very bad. Very, very bad.
Rick goaded him on all afternoon.
What?
Rick goaded him on all afternoon.
You just got to go, okay, you're right, I'm leaving. You got to know your own limitations.
Sometimes I just look at the Steiners and I go, these guys are just dying for a fan to jump the rail or some wrestler to get pissed off at them, and I know they just try, They just try and get these fans to jump the rail. They just try and get these guys to grab their leg or whatever, just so they can just pummel them.
Yeah. They do it for no reason. I mean, God, Rick Steiner with that match with Conan?
Yep.
I mean, that's not fun. That wasn't funny. That was bad news.
I know.
It's from Harry Simon, who says, "You'll be happy to know that I'm officially recovered from the WrestleMania Trivia-thon." Yeah, he did a trivia-a-thon question every day the week before WrestleMania on the website. And next week we're going to have who wants to beat the crap out of Shawn Michaels trivia. That's boy.
That'll be another 8-day series.
Yeah, really. See, do these wrestlers have a chance to go to WCW? AJ Styles, Air Paris. Don't know. Good question. Jamie Noble. I got to think that Jamie Noble was on that list. Of the names that we don't know. Just because I know some people that are very high on him, and I know his salary's low, and I got to believe they're going to sign Jamie Noble. Evan Courageous, don't know. Crowbar, I know that they haven't done anything with him so far. We had him on the show last week, or whenever it was, just recently. Actually, what am I saying? We haven't had him. We're having him on the show. I know, I'm losing my mind. We're having him on the show in like a week or two.
Okay.
I just remember from the list that I talked to him about doing the show, so that's why. Vampiro, no. Shane Douglas, probably not. Mama Luke's. Vito, probably no. And Johnny, I'm guessing yes. Johnny's got some potential, don't you think?
Oh, he does.
Johnny Deville? Yeah.
He doesn't get hurt.
Yeah. And Terry Funk, probably no. What's going on with the racial discrimination lawsuit? Still on against Time Warner. Will Survivor Series be held in Toronto? Yes, as far as I know. Where will Raw and SmackDown be held? I don't know for sure, but probably up in that part of the country. Ontario, Quebec, maybe Michigan. The King of the Ring started in 1993. That was also Hogan's last WF pay-per-view. The 3 worst pay-per-views in a row were 1999, Great American Bash, Macho Man against Nash, 1999, Bash at the Beach, Macho and Sid against Sting and Nash, 1999, Road Wild, Nash against Hogan. Okay. What do you think about Ken Shamrock going to WCW? Certainly not now. Does Vince McMahon now own the rights to OWN, the One Warrior Nation? I think that might have slipped through in the trademarks that they were buying.
They have.
Let's go to Scott in Connecticut. Scott, what's going on?
How about Ed Leslie? Is he a chance?
All right.
I had a quick question for Donovan.
Yeah.
All right. You may not want to answer this, but looking at all the guys on TV, whether it be WCW, WWF, if you could have one guy who you could just take back to the center and make them bump their ass off and just
Billy Gunn.
Yeah, and you had the whole day to do your best to teach them how to wrestle. Because obviously, someone who can't. Who would it be?
I don't know. That's one of those questions that you really put me on the spot. I really
want to get in trouble.
To be honest,
say like a guy who's like really retired, where he's never coming back.
Right, exactly.
Well, then he could die on you.
I think
Tex McKenzie.
On the who?
Tex McKenzie.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm trying to give a name that won't come back to haunt you in later life.
How about Adrian Street?
Okay.
Yeah, I know you don't really want to answer that because the time may come where that could come back to
the thing is I'll just tell you real quick. I'm not there. I'm not in the WWF. I haven't made it to the big dance. So, to be honest with you, I'm not. It's not even my position to say that.
That's kind of the reason I asked you.
Yeah.
Because you're the guy. You see all these young guys, work their asses off, and then you see guys slouching on TV.
It's definitely one of those things where. There's guys that are getting paid by major companies where I feel, I'm better than those guys in certain aspects of the business, but I'm not at liberty to say because they're the ones making money and I'm not. So on the indie scene now, if you ask me that question, I could probably answer it for you a lot easier. But in the WWF or WCW, I'm not. They're the ones making money, so I'm keeping my mouth shut until I start making some money.
And
Dave, I wanted to run a few names by you, see if you can tell me what's up with these guys.
Okay.
What about Reno?
Tex McKenzie.
What about Reno?
Reno, if it was me, I would take a chance on him. Absolutely. I don't know that I don't know that he's not on their list, but I mean, I was impressed with Rick Cornell when he first came in there, and it just kind of, you know, they have to certainly give him some character and everything like that. But I thought he was a solid worker, good worker.
I was impressed with him on when he did Saturday nights and stuff like that. But I was impressed with a lot of those guys because I mean they had to be impressive. You know.
Yeah.
And then another guy's what about the Big Boss Man?
What about him?
As far as just like where the hell is he?
He's in WWF. They're trying to come up with like a new gimmick for him, just kind of freshen him up, and they haven't really gotten around to it yet.
The thing to do with the death of the Big Show's father was just horrible. It's probably the worst thing I've ever seen.
Yeah,
as far as angle-wise, considering his father had already been dead, you know. I mean, it's one of those things that A, you don't really base an angle on because it's, you know, it's not one of those things you should touch on, and B, because he had, you know, it was so like, you know, people can easily find out he's already dead, you know.
Yeah, that was pretty tacky. And then the deal, you know, where he wasn't really his father. And then they do all that, and then they really do nothing with it when it's over. You know, it's like now today. I mean, it's like that was, you know, it's almost like, was Russo still there then? I'm sure he was.
No, I think that was.
I think he like started writing it, but then he left, and so someone else just finished it.
He was already gone.
Because remember he came in like November, and that feud, you know,
that was like a November-December feud. No, and Russo came in October. Yeah, okay.
Russo was gone.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but the thing is about that feud is also I noticed around that time is when WWF, WCW, and ECW were all doing the same thing, where they moved their world title matches lower in the card, and it was really weird because I mean Big Show had the title.
They had to.
Big Show is probably the worst champion they've had in a good while. And
well, that, you know, the Big Show thing was because of the Austin injury, and they just felt they needed to give a babyface the title that month. You know, because I mean the plan was not, you know, the Big Show winning the title was a last-second plan because they had screwed everybody because they'd advertised Austin at that Survivor Series.
They did that.
Yeah, that was a real bad thing they did on that one. Yeah. I thought that, you know, I mean, they should have just told the truth, but they, you know, had to get one last, you know, buy rate out of Steve Austin because they, you know, they didn't even know he was ever going to come back.
Yeah, and what do you think, guys like Jarrett and Nash and stuff like that? What do you think once their contracts are up and say they wait a while and they don't get a call? What do you think they're going to look for that like them themselves go at? You know.
Nash will probably try to get into New Japan, and because of the size, they will at least give him a shot. As far as Jarrett, I don't know. I mean, you know, Jarrett, there's always going to be someone who wants to use Jarrett at a certain thing, and so, you know, he'll be one of those guys where if someone starts up, he'll be one of the first guys called, but again, something's got to stay stable, you know, for him to, I don't know, he may end up in his father's real estate business for all we know. I mean, you know, he
doesn't have enough money to go on just living.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, he's made good money for the last several years. I mean, I don't know how much he's, you know, I don't know what his financial situation is. So I couldn't answer that.
Yeah, and notice with this Austin thing, you're saying it's building into, you know, Triple H turning face and stuff like that, right? Don't you think they have to be extremely careful to make it seem like Austin's still the heel, Triple H is baby face, rather than Austin's turning face, Triple H is remaining heel?
I think they'll do it. I think the way they'll do it won't be a problem. I really think by then.
I think if they had did it this Monday, it would have been perfect. Because, I mean, he got the clean loss against Undertaker, right? And that's always a babyface thing. And I'm sure that was done to get the heel turn over more. But I just think that since they've already done the fake turns so many times with Hunter, it's going to be so hard to do it the real time. Especially with a guy like Austin, who these guys want to cheer.
Well, they went for it Monday. They went for it Monday.
The crowd was definitely ready for it Monday, yeah.
But will they be ready for it next time after seeing Monday?
They will.
Yeah, I think so. Yep.
And what about with WCW? I'm hearing the date's going to be pushed back.
Yeah. June.
It's going to be June?
Yeah, we don't know the for sure date, but I'm guessing June 9th, just as a guess.
And I really think what they have to do is, first thing, if I mean, maybe not the first week, but maybe, you know, bring a guy like Rock or something like that. Next week, maybe not in the singles, have like a tournament, maybe a battle royal, and have a WCW guy go over the Rock. Like I'm saying, not in the singles, maybe in a battle royal.
Why not singles?
Why not singles? Because it's too, it's kind of like a bad message, you know?
Maybe too early.
A bad message? What message, though?
It's a message saying, I mean, this guy, like, none of these guys that they hired, which is, I'm not going to, like, fantasize, say Booker T or guys they haven't hired. I'm talking about the guys they have, and I'm thinking Mike Austin's basically their only shot.
But I'm sure by June they'll have some guys in there. They can't just go
I'm
with these
thinking
24 guys.
thinking
That's
Mike
why they pushed
Awesome's
it back.
The only like believable guy can go over Rock, and how many WWF guys are going to say, like, Mike Awesome went over Rock in a singles clean? I mean,
sometimes you got to do things like that to get
you
people
gotta
over,
do that, though.
to make a company.
We were talking earlier, Boss Man's beating Rock. Yeah, everybody.
Yeah, that's right. Mike Awesome's better than Boss Man.
I mean, Rock is really good in the sense that he can lose 1 billion times and still be the most over guy
Rock
on
can
the
do
planet.
anything and stay over because he's like Ric Flair, and even more than Ric Flair ever was. In that there's something. He's just such a superstar. And the other thing is that today, who wins and loses, it's important in the storytelling. But as far as guys getting over, I mean, guys get over great losing a great match.
Not so much anymore because there's only WWF now. Back when they had all three promotions going with the two main promotions, 2 shows a week. ECW had 1 show a week. I mean, it's like a loss gets, people don't remember it 2 weeks later.
They still don't, except if it's on a pay-per-view. But even on a pay-per-view, if you have a great match, I mean, I don't think that the Hardys or the Dudleys got hurt, by not winning that 3-way. I mean, I think they're in the same position they were in, and I certainly don't think Rock got hurt losing the title, and I don't think that Benoit got hurt losing that match to Kurt Angle. I mean, because they all had great matches.
Now, here's something interesting. If you're saying that they're going right now, they're going for 2 big tag team promos, whereas it's going to be Jericho and Benoit against Regal and Angle, and then they're going to do Undertaker and Kane against Austin Triple H, right? Normally, the WWF's formula is when they have singles built up for a pay-per-view. I haven't seen a singles main event on Raw. Last night. But I mean, besides that, they do so many handicaps and tags.
Too many handicaps.
What?
You know what? I think too many handicaps because I'm getting bored with the handicap thing.
Yeah, I hate them. Because I mean, it's either a guy beats 2 people and he's Superman, or the guy loses and who cares? And it's a punishment angle, And
the other one with when 2 guys beat 1 guy, that's a hard one for people to get over because the 2 guys that just won, I mean, what does it say for them? It took 2 guys to beat 1.
Yeah, unless in the rare occasion when they did the thing with Benoit and Angle, that's when they did their feud, is because of the handicap with Rock.
Yeah.
That's okay. But
that was going somewhere.
2 handicaps against one with Benoit and one with Jericho this week.
Those are okay. I mean, the one like last night, what I didn't like was it was 2-on-1 the whole match instead of tagging in and out, because tagging in and out, it gives you a better chance to make believable comebacks. Whereas this one, like, even though Benoit made that great comeback with all those German suplexes, it was totally awesome. Yeah. It's just something like where 2 guys of that caliber are beating. Everyone knows 2 guys of that caliber are beating on you. I don't care if you're Chris Benoit or anyone. It's just it's just tougher.
And storyline-wise, that shouldn't be,
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is that I think that doing those handicap matches makes sense because you're building up the idea where everyone wants to see Benoit and Jericho, in a fair fight with those 2 guys, so there's a reason for them to team up. So, it's this one makes at least sense based on where they're going.
All right, and who are you guys picking for King of the Ring this year? I mean, it doesn't really matter, but I mean, as far as
name somebody mentioned last night in email was Regal.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But I mean, that's 2 heels in a row.
Nothing wrong with that.
I'm thinking this. I'm thinking, you know what? Angle was so predictable in the sense that he was basically almost at the level, and the King of the Ring didn't really do that for him,
He didn't get help for the King of the Ring because it was a bad tournament. It's the same thing. If something's really good.
Plus, I mean, what they've been doing with this King of the Ring is saying, like, this has gotten guys far. You look back, Shamrock's not in the company anymore. Billy Gunn is. I don't even want to talk about Billy Gunn. And then Angle's the only guy, but I think Angle didn't need it. I want this year. I want to see some guy.
Well, Austin. Austin's actually the one.
But it was more Austin's interview than actual winning the King of the Ring.
Remember the tournament when
he didn't beat Jake Roberts.
Yeah.
And then remember the tournament where Viscera won?
Oh yes.
Yeah, and they had Savio Vega go all the way to the finals.
That was one of their really bad nights in their history.
In the finals for some reason.
As stupid as that was, just the fact that as far as Savio Vega, some jobber, actually made it to the finals, I think is the way they should go.
No.
I don't see. You're not a jobber, but I'm saying.
I don't think so.
Maybe,
how about Angle wins
again?
again?
Who's breaking away from a team? Huh? What about that?
You mean a tag team guy breaking away from a team like say Edge Christian or Jeff Hardy?
Jeff Hardy, yeah.
Jeff Hardy's a good one.
Jeff Hardy wins.
Or you know what, Jeff Hardy could even just go to the finals and lose, and it would be good.
Yeah, I mean, but I think what would be good is if you know, they had if whether it be Hardy's or even Edge and Christian or whoever they're thinking about breaking up, whether they be paired against each other, therefore they have that build up for that, you know, confrontation, and the person who wins goes on to win the King of the Ring. See what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the best idea rather than Regal. I think Regal's doing main events now. Why does he need to win the King of the Ring? Same thing with Jericho. Same thing with Benoit. Same thing with any.
Well, Angle was too. Well, no, I guess he wasn't.
I just don't think that would go. I mean, storyline wise and vignette wise, Regal would be the best choice to do it with, because I could just see hilarious stuff with that.
Oh yeah, King William.
Yeah.
I could see that too.
That would be awesome.
It'd be hilarious.
In the back, and having to summon people, I just think that'd be tremendous. But as far as like the best thing to do to actually get this pay-per-view over, because I mean the last 4 have been horrible. As far as if you look back on what it's done for people, you know.
Benoit, Regal, King of the Ring finals.
Benoit against Regal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Regal wins.
Hey, Dave.
Yes.
It's Donovan. Can I say a couple things real quick?
Go ahead. Absolutely.
I just want to get this in here. I wanted to thank Red Bastine, and I wanted to thank Dean Silverstone and Cauliflower Alley for putting on such a great event this year in Las Vegas. And I think one of my main goals now is to really get a lot of younger talent involved with that Cauliflower Alley, because it's not going to be too many more years, and we're going to be the ones that are there and being honored. So I really stress how important Cauliflower Alley is. It's taking care of, like, you know, guys like Johnny Valentine and stuff, and now they raised a lot of money for him this year. It was like $2,500. And so that's a very good program. Bobby Heenan was there. Mike Tenay was there. You know, I know you asked Bobby Heenan on your show if he liked it and stuff, and it's just each year more and more legends are showing up, and I think we need more and more of the younger talent out there too. I know APW is very dialed into that. You know, we bring most of our guys there every year, so it's definitely a great thing. And
I'm glad you.
Go ahead.
I'm glad you brought that up, because you know I used to go to Cauliflower Alley, and it was really cool when I first would go, because there were like all of these legends from the 50s that you kind of like read about but never saw or anything like that.
Yeah.
And then like a lot of the, you know, it seemed like they skipped a generation, and then some of the younger guys would go.
Right.
And it's like it's really, you know, the Cauliflower Alley is like one of the few things that links the history, you know, the historical wrestlers like your Lou Theszes and stuff, but not just him, but like all of the names that, you know, Pat Patterson's or whatever, with the current scene, and it's I think it's really good. I'm glad that you guys. It's really good for the younger wrestlers to go there, because there's just like a lot of knowledge in that room. I mean, I picked up so much just going to those Cauliflower Alley things when I was younger.
So many stories. You know, you can educate yourself, and that's one thing, you know, that a lot of the guys today don't do. They don't educate themselves to the history of the business, and that's a great way to do it. Real quick, too, I just wanted to mention the APW Awards Banquet. For those of you that are in the Northern California, Hayward area, is going to be on Friday, April 20th. So we have that every year, and I think it's a great thing. We pretty much pay respect to everyone that's helped, you know, our company out. And, you know, and I got to thank Roland, too, because a lot of people, they ask me, do you work for UPW, or are you full-time with UPW? And I say, no. Roland's the one that pays me. I work for UPW. Actually, I wrestle there, but Roland's the one that employs me so I can make a living in this business. And so the awards banquet's a great way to, you know, pay respects to everyone that's helped out. And if this company ever gets, you know, into TV, I guarantee you, we recognize good talent, and there's a handful of good guys out there we definitely have our eyes on. So I hope something comes, you know, really quickly.
Okay. I want to go through these really quick. We'll get back to the phone calls. This is Kid Romeo and Jamie Noble will be kept. We talked about Jamie Noble a second ago. Kid Romeo, I think he's got a real good shot of making it. If it was up to me, I would pick him. What are your thoughts, Brian?
I'd take them both.
Yeah, I would too. Who do you think Vanderlei Silva's next opponent would be in the next Pride? I would think
Jamie Noble is really small, though.
Yeah, but they've got a lot of good small guys
I started watching
there.
him with Rain. He didn't look much taller.
No, he's not.
I mean, I have absolutely no problem with that. If I were running a company, I'd bring him in anyway. I'm just looking at it from their standpoint.
I think Romeo's got a lot of charisma, too.
I think he's great. I like watching him.
You know, in fact, with Romeo, of all of the guys in WCW, most of their entrance music can be changed. But I remember when I was talking to someone from Titan, and we were going through the list, and I mentioned Romeo, and I go, this is the one guy who you keep his entrance music and you keep his ring entrance, because he only had like 2 or 3 weeks on their TV before the thing went under.
Yeah.
And I go, like, he's good.
He is
good. And I think they recognized it, too, because they gave him that big, push in there with Ray and Kidman and him and Ilk Skipper, and they had great matches, too.
Mm-hmm.
The last pay-per-view match was really good.
Donovan, did you see the last Nitro?
Yes, I did.
What did you think of that when Vince showed up?
It was definitely, it was something that we had been talked about before the show started. So, of course, everyone was they kind of know what's going to happen before it even happens. But I thought it was definitely good for the viewers. I mean, as a wrestling fan, it definitely generates a lot of talk.
It was a moment.
Yes.
How about Flair's interview? Wasn't that awesome? How about Flair's interview?
Flair's?
I thought Flair's interview was awesome on that show.
Yeah, I thought it was too. I know Roland was like, man, I didn't really like Flair's interview, and because he was yelling and just really, screaming and rolling. Yeah, exactly. But I think it got over the point that Flair was really hot that this was happening.
And it was over.
Yeah.
It's like this is my last interview, and you're going to remember me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he was definitely over.
On the Vanderlei Silva thing, if it was up to me, I would not have him fight until Sakuraba's ready to come back, because the last thing they need is to put Vanderlei Silva in there with a really good opponent and then have him lose, then bring Sakuraba back for revenge on a guy who's lost, and have Vanderlei beat Sakuraba again. So I think it's real important not to have him fight anybody until Sakuraba's ready. But that may not be their decision. Let's see. This is from Josh, who goes, I heard you talking about MattRats.com and checked it out. The trailer for the show featured all kinds of crazy high spots that would make the Hardys and other thrill seekers proud. What is their history? Do these guys have any background or a chance in the future? They're trying to syndicate the TV. Mandalay, in fact, is involved in that. There's not really any history. It was just they did like 1 or 2 30-minute shows, and the announcer is great. Mauro Ranallo is a great announcer. They have a thing, Donovan. I don't know if you have read about this or heard about this. They do it's like a platform on the ring post.
Okay.
So a lot of their high-flying moves, instead of being from the top turnbuckle, are actually from the platform on the ring post and doing moonsaults off there or knee drops off there. So it's like, about a foot higher. So it's the highest high-flying moves in a ring that I've ever seen.
Oh, wow.
And actually, I like, as a thing, in fact, I would think about, because it's something new, and if I was running a company, that's something that I would steal, because I thought it was like, even though it came off really
innovative.
good and it's not contrived, if you know what I mean.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
They call it the launching pad is what they called it, which I didn't really go for the name, but the idea that they had this little platform up there and these guys climbed the top ropes, then climbed to the pad, and then do one guy did I guess it would be a 540 senton, which was just totally ridiculous. But I mean, like I said, their high-flying moves are out of this world. I mean, they're teenage guys. I think they all look like they're under, Ted Annis is probably the oldest one, and he's probably like 21.
Right.
And I think 21 is a cutoff line.
Is that what it is?
I know. I remember, Ted Hart's involved with this. Am I correct?
Yeah, he's probably like the booker.
Yeah, I remember he came here about a year ago, and he got in the ring for probably 30 minutes or so. And I'll tell you, I don't know him as a person or anything, but he was incredible to watch in the ring for 30 minutes. I mean, the kid is a natural when it comes to certain things. I don't know too much about the psychology. I didn't really get a chance to see him work a whole match, but he's definitely a solid, when it comes to certain things.
He's in the ring. He's one of those guys who just seems like he can do everything he visualizes.
Yes, exactly. It's a perfect way to put it.
Yeah, they have Davey Boy Smith's son Harry, who's probably like 14 or 15. He's in there. They call him the Bulldog, and then the rest of the guys. There's friends that those two, Harry Smith and Ted Annis, grew up with. like O.J. Wilson, I think is. I don't remember all their names, but they're T.J. Wilson, I think. But they're like kids. They all grew up together. They probably all learned in that like ring, that the Hearts trained guys in.
Right.
And a lot of them are Calgary guys. Brian knows some of the guys too, right? That went up there.
I think there's like 4 of them that worked our shows. One of them was like 16, one was 18. Can't even remember what the other 2 were. Same age range though. Yeah,
it's great. I mean, if you watch the first TV, you'll be impressed. But again, like they have to change the marketing of it because that audience thing, the feel of the audience, just it didn't go for me.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, because I mean, none of them were wrestling fans. They literally the whole audience was hired teenage girl models. Mm-hmm. And so it's just you hear all the screeches and everything like that, but they're behaving as they're told, as opposed to there's no. I guess when you watch the match, there's no emotion because it's a fake crowd.
Right. There's no natural feeling.
Yeah, none. Yeah. Let's go to Vince in New York. Vince, what's going on?
Hey, what's up?
Not too much.
Hey.
First of all, for the King of the Ring, I was thinking if Jeff Hardy and Matt Hardy went to the finals, that could be a good match.
It could.
Could be worked the split-up angle. I had an idea for the WCW. I want to know what you guys thought of this. Now, it would have to be a ways down the road because they'd have to get a better time slot and everything. But if maybe around December or so, Linda goes to Shane and says, I was able to find a loophole in the contract. You can have one spot in the Royal Rumble. And then in December, have WCW use, I don't know if they're going to keep the Starrcade name or whatever, but, have their own little maybe 20-man Royal Rumble thing for Starrcade. And that when it goes on now.
You don't want to do that because you don't want to dilute from the WWF's Royal Rumble. I mean, you can do it a different way.
Plus, doing that makes it like, WCW's a second-rate promotion. You guys have to win this Royal Rumble, and the winner gets a shot at the big time and go to the WWF Royal Rumble, and then it just makes, WCW look like this second-rate joint.
Well, I was just thinking that because if they're going to try interpromotional things, and Vince isn't letting right now his, they're doing the story with like Michael Cole and stuff, can't even say the WCW name on TV. Maybe they could,
maybe they can
try to
find
Michael Cole to get on TV or whatever.
What I missed? What you said?
They could maybe try and find a loophole to get some WCW talent over there to start interpromotional. I mean, I wouldn't want a WCW guy to go into the Royal Rumble and win it right away because that would really make it fixed, look fixed and everything.
I think the loopholes need to be something like, there's a loophole in Rock's contract, so he leaves. And they do the invasion.
Yeah, I guess.
And you don't want to make a loophole where it makes one company look like it's the place to be, and everyone wants to get there by finding a loophole. Unless they're doing it for WCW to build it up.
I don't know. I also, listening to the WWF Access thing last weekend, Bubba Ray mentioned that he'd like to go to WCW to win the belt so that they can be the only team that's done it. Am I wrong in assuming that the Steiners won all 3 titles?
Not ECW.
All 3 Steiners ever won the AWA. That's what
No, I'm talking, Bubba Ray was saying ECW, WWF, WCW.
I don't think the Steiners ever win the ECW. I don't think they did.
I don't know if they did. I know they were there, but
they were there, but I don't think they ever did because they never did a job when they were there. Because I remember that was the big thing. I remember when they came in, it was like, okay, DePaul was like, okay, this is when those guys were big in Japan and the guys that were big in Japan didn't like doing jobs in the United States because it made the newspapers over there and all that. And I was going, okay, let's see you get them to do the job. And he goes, oh, no problem, they'll be professional. And then they left and they never did a job.
Well, that was in
kind of like Sid.
That was in a time frame where I lived, we didn't have cable, so I didn't really see any wrestling. So I'm not really too aware of what happened in the mid '90s anyway.
Yeah, they were in ECW, but they never held the belts.
All right, thanks, guys.
Okay, we are pretty much out of time. I just want to read one real quick thing before we get out of here, and that's that the Big Show Boss Man angle was Terry Taylor's idea, but he had a different ending and direction for the angle itself. So anyway, that's what that was all about. Because Terry Taylor actually left before they finished the angle, and then he went back to WCW as well. Anyway, Donovan, I want to thank you very much for doing the show.
Thanks a lot, Dave and Braun. It was great. Okay,
and Donovan, hopefully we'll be seeing you real soon. I'm going to try to get to Vallejo on the 14th.
Yes, definitely, and definitely the awards banquet too. If you don't have anything.
Let me know about that one because that one, Hayward. I would love to go to that.
Cool.
And I will go too.
I will. I'll talk to you later.
Okay, thanks a bunch, Donovan.
Thank
and
you,
Brian,
guys.
of course. Okay, Brian, thanks for joining us this week. And next week, Monday, of course, we're going to be covering the I guess what's going on in the weekend. Actually, a pretty quiet weekend in the States, but a big weekend internationally. There's a big show in Tijuana tonight. There's the Pride tonight. There's the Osaka Dome would be Monday, but on Monday's show we will have all the results from the Osaka Dome. And let's see. And then for Tuesday we're going to have Ken Shamrock on, and we'll see everybody Monday at 5.